Well, Rebecca, thanks for coming on. Today I'm joined by Rebecca Whitman. And here I want to talk to you about the the seven pillars of abundance. You also are the author of three best-selling books. So without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here, Brett. So I moved to Los Angeles about 20 years ago, and I didn't think I was going to be rated the number one life coach or have best-selling books. I just wanted to fulfill my childhood dream of being an actress.
No
And
kidding.
yeah, I had small parts on big shows like Friends, CSI, and 24. And I was never quite able to get my break as an actress. So I found myself working at children's acting schools, which I totally loved because I don't have kids and I love the performing arts. And I had a lot of free time. And in that free time, I started studying with great spiritual teachers like Abraham Hicks, Michael Beckwith, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay. And I learned a lot about the law of attraction, and I started to apply it to my life, and I started getting great
Mm.
results financially and health wise and socially. But the one area that I really had a hard time with was my love life. And I had a series of really heartbreaking, painful relationships with emotionally unavailable people. And I ended up marrying one of those thinking I could change him. And what happened was, after 3 years, I decided to file for divorce. And as my marriage was unraveling, my dad was dying in a nursing home. And in one of my last conversations with my dad, he said, Rebecca, I really want you to write something. And I
Mhm.
had no idea what I was going to write. And my dad's funeral was on a Wednesday. My divorce was finalized on a Friday. So within 72 hours, I lost my marriage and my dad. And a few months later, I was sitting across the desk from my financial planner, and he said, Rebecca, you're coming in here with great energy. You're actually a millionaire this year with your financial portfolio, stocks, real estate. And he said, but this is the year you lost your dad and your marriage. So I think you should write a book and empower people and teach them how you were so resilient. So I got an idea to write this book, How to Make a Six-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And it's not a business plan like people think it is from the title. It's actually how I was able to make a six-figure income working part-time and how I've been living my life in seven key areas. I call them my seven pillars of abundance. And when you have these areas of life in alignment, you can create anything you want. So now I'm married to my soulmate. It's a totally different, awesome type of relationship than I've ever had. I'm in the best shape of my life. I continue to be financially prosperous. And it's all because I'm living my life in these seven areas, which are the seven pillars of abundance.
Nice. Now, I've personally read that book and I
Thank
just got
you.
finished with it. I mean, you aren't kidding that there's so many philosophies in there, narrowed down to a little over 2.5 hours. So if anybody who's into audiobooks like I am, you could just take that, plug and play, and there's so much in it. Like there's little tidbits like the in sales, like if you dress up how people that you're selling to dress, you build way more trust with them. And I was like, oh, no kidding. Like there's just so many to like little affirmations that you can wake up, just you write down or however you got to do them. And you just feel so much better about who you are beginning your day. It's just fantastic.
So you listen to it on Audible. It's so yeah,
Yes.
if you have an Amazon or if you have an Audible membership, it comes free with your membership. And I read it in my own voice. So yeah,
Yeah.
check it out, listen to it. The seven pillars of abundance are spirituality, fitness, emotions, romance, mindset, social, and financial. And that's exactly how I structure my day, my week, my year. I wake up, I have a morning practice where I write in a
Mm.
journal. There's a great story about the journal too, because I know I mentioned to you in our pre-interview that I'm in a 12-step group. So
Hmm.
I was at a 12-step meeting in the 90s, and I met this woman who said, "This is how you write in a daily God journal." And she gave me these journal prompts, and I've been using them every morning for decades now. And it's completely changed my life, how I think of myself, how I think of others. It helps me reframe things from negative to positive and learn from other people. It's just incredible. So I'm actually going to give that as a gift to your listeners. It's called my abundance journal. So I start my day with my abundance journal, prayer. I like guided meditation. Then I go work out. There's the fitness. And when I have that kind of a morning practice of spirituality and fitness, I feel like I can do anything that day and just have an amazing day.
For sure. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone a day where you didn't do your morning routine? And how did that day go for you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there have been days where I just don't have time to do it. And I have an abbreviated version and a longer version of my morning routine. If I don't do my morning routine, I definitely don't feel as centered. I don't feel as calm. I feel a little bit like scattered. But then I've learned that I can restart my day anytime. So let's say I sleep in, I sleep through my alarm, and I'm late for my first meeting, and my day gets started off a little bit rough, then I
Mhm.
can always at lunch or later on in the afternoon, as soon as I get a break, do my daily abundance journal and my spiritual reading and prayer and meditation whenever I can fit it in later in the day. I could even do it at night. And so whenever you do it is fine. Just make sure you do it, because spirituality is the building block for living an abundance life. And when I feel like I'm tuned in to something greater than myself that loves me more than my mother, that is the strength that helps carry me through my day and through all the situations that happen.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I mean, there's just so many questions to ask you. But one thing that I do really want to ask, because you mean you're what most people would think that is successful. So I know a lot of people, especially in this self-development world, want to go from point A to point B overnight. And one thing that you do mention is burnout. Now, I've been on the end of that, and I don't think most people are aware of how they're burnt out until they're burnt out. And I think, an awareness or an insight to knowing the steps that you're traveling down that road before you even reach burnout is important. So that way you can like reel it back in. Can you just give me some things that you've noticed that happen on the way to burnout? Like some clear signs that you're like, whoa, all right, I'm
Yeah,
trying to go from one destination into the future real quick, and I'm just gonna end up setting myself back even more.
I understand your question, because people do want to go from point A to point B as fast as possible, but you don't want to deplete yourself in the process. Because when you're in burnout, a couple of the symptoms are it stops being fun. So
Mhm.
whatever the project was that got you so excited to work so hard, when it stops being fun and starts feeling like drudgery, like, oh, I gotta go do it again, like the Dunkin' Donuts commercial, like, oh, I gotta wake up and make the donuts. Like
Mhm.
when you start feeling that kind of like I'm dreading doing this, that is one of the biggest signs of burnout. Another sign is when you stop returning calls and texts of people that you really love and care about, because you just don't have the energy or the bandwidth to talk to the people that you really love or spend time with
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
And that is why social is actually one of the pillars of abundance, because when you make time, I don't make a ton of time every week because I'm still, gunning for a lot of really big goals, but I have one social engagement a week with a friend, where it's not about business. I'm just relaxing and shooting the shit, as I like to say. So yeah, not having the time to socialize, not having the time to exercise means you're on the path to burnout, means
Mhm.
that, you're not taking time for self-care. And I like to say that self-care is not selfish. So when you're not taking the time to exercise, and when you're just not taking care of yourself, you're getting sick, you're starting to have like digestive issues, skin issues, you're just not taking care of yourself. And it's really counterintuitive, because when you have a big goal, you really think that once I achieve the goal, then I'll call everybody back, then I'll work out, then I'll get 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep and take care of myself. But a lot
Mhm.
of people do not actually reach their goal, because they get sick and they get depleted and they give up because they're burned out, or they get it. Like, I've met a couple women who have actually reached their goal, and then they get sick and like can't get out of bed for a year. Like, what is the point? Like, what is the point of having $1 million in the bank if you're like laying around in bed and you can't even get out and enjoy your life? So that's why I like to say that health is wealth. And when you prioritize your health, you have every opportunity in the world in front of you, and you can achieve, be, do, or have anything. But when you are not healthy, when you're like in bed or hooked up to an IV in the hospital, then your only goal in life is getting healthy. And that's why it's so important to not burn out and to prioritize your health.
Right. And so the obvious question is, you made, most of your money or just your lifestyle like one step at a time. Because feel like that's the other side of the equation, is most people will look at successful people and they're like, they must have just, one day decided, all right, I'm going to be this, and I'm just going to do a million steps, what it took right there overnight, instead of just realizing that it was built one little thing at a time.
Yeah, it's literally just taking step by step by step. And they say that when you're in depression, you're thinking about the past and you're beating yourself up. Oh my God, I have regret. I should have done it this way. When you're thinking about the future, you're in anxiety. Like, how will I get there? And what am I going to do? And how am I going to do it? And I'm way more of a future tripper than someone depressed thinking about the past. When I get too far ahead into the future, I get into anxiety. And my goal is to be happy. To me, success is the amount of joy that you feel in the day, in the moment. So
Mm,
when I feel like I'm getting into anxiety, I have to reel it back into the present and just say, okay, what is my next step? What is my next indicated action? Where are my feet right now? And a great tool to get back into the present is the five senses. Like, what am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I listening to? What am I touching right now? You can even like just touch your hands together to help you feel like your fingertips and feel what it feels like to be in the present. So these are all ways to ground yourself back in the moment when you get too far out ahead of yourself in the future.
mm, awesome. All right. So you said you moved out to California to initially be an actor or an actress, which, I've been out to California. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
But how did you go from that to be like, all right, I want to start self-development. Like, I want to, like, there's clearly things about me that I know that I need to work on. I feel like that's how everybody gets into self-development. So what were
Yeah.
some of those things that were like, hey, I got to do something?
Well, I got into self-development when I was a teenager, when I first discovered 12-step, AA. So I was already on that path when I moved out here.
Mhm.
But when I moved out here, I was actually drinking again. And I was going to another 12-step group called Al-Anon. And that is for people who are in relationship with people who have a drinking problem. So
Mm,
that's what I thought my problem was. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I'm like, all right, I'm in a new city. I'm here to pursue acting. I don't want to waste any time in relationships with alcoholics. So I better start going to these Al-Anon meetings so I know like how to be in a healthy relationship. So that was it. It was my love life that inspired me to keep working on myself. And that's when I started really doing a lot of studying with great spiritual teachers who taught me the law of attraction. And I had no problem applying it to my financial life, and my love life was the last piece of the puzzle to click into place. So I think of the 7 pillars of abundance. They're kind of like 7 spokes on a bicycle wheel.
Mhm.
And I had one spoke that I couldn't fix. And finally, after like a lot of painful relationships and a painful divorce, I figured out, that I deserve to be around nice people. I was beating, my big breakthrough was I was a recovering perfectionist. So I was beating myself up
Mm,
constantly,
mm.
talking to myself in such a negative way, saying, you're not good enough. You should have done it better. Why did you do this? You should be here. And when I started to talk to myself in a compassionate, loving way, that is when I finally attracted a nice romantic relationship in my life. And it's something that it's totally different for me.
Interesting. That's being a perfectionist. Like I
Yeah.
could sit there and tell you, no, I'm not a perfectionist. Like who why would anybody want to be a perfectionist? But I think you alluded to that, right? You said that self-talk. It's always like, yeah, you could have done that better. Like, yeah, don't you think you could have worked out just a little bit more? Don't you think you could have did that project just a little bit better? And it's like those little underlying things that you're just so not aware of, that is what makes you a perfectionist.
Yeah, it's very insidious because people who are perfectionists, they really want to max out their potential and be the best person they can be. But they don't realize, or I didn't realize, that beating myself up was not going to get me there in a happy way. Like I did achieve a lot beating myself up. I graduated from Princeton University with honors, and I achieved certain milestones as far as like owning real estate, and I did achieve success being a perfectionist, but I wasn't happy. So, what is the point of achieving success and being unhappy with your constantly being unhappy with yourself? So, I learned that I can make it an easier, fun journey when I talk kinder to myself and still achieve and even achieve more. So, why not? Life is short. Why not make it as much fun as I can while I'm here?
For sure, for sure. But I just kind of still want to play around with the subject because it's like people, it's easier to say the law of attraction, the law of attraction. You just got to use the law of attraction. But what is that? And something that you do mention in your book quite a lot is your vibration.
Yeah.
How you're talking to yourself is the vibration that you're giving off, which makes the law of attraction possible.
Yeah.
So I think not a lot of people realize that it's the vibration. Like the law of attraction is secondary to your vibration, and your
Yeah.
vibration has everything to do with self-talk.
Everything to do with self-talk, and I still struggle with it. Like I haven't, I'm not a saint, I'm not an avatar or anything. Like last night, literally right before I went to bed, I was complaining to my husband going, I've been doing this for so long, and why am I not here in my business? Like literally, he's like, you're just tired, just go to bed. Like, so it's not something that that ever really goes away. But I woke up this morning and I wrote in my abundance journal and I started my day off, and it's gone today. But yeah, it's not like, I'm still struggling with burnout. I'm still struggling with perfectionism, but these are the tools that have worked for me to help me along the path. So, and as far as vibration, if your listeners don't know what that is, your thoughts have a resonance. So negative thoughts are lower vibration, fear, doubt, worry, depression, bitterness, and they're all based in fear. And then other thoughts have a higher vibration, like happiness, excitement, satisfaction, all this bliss. Those are literally, you can measure them with the machine. They have a higher vibration. And those are all thoughts based on love. So when you learn how to switch your mind from fear-based thoughts to love-based thoughts, that is how you shift your vibration. And one of the fastest ways to shift your thoughts from fear to love for me is through a gratitude list. And that's why in my daily abundance journal, which I'm going to gift all your listeners, they are going to get the journal prompts, and one of them is a gratitude list. When I'm grateful for what I have, then I'm not in a low vibration. I'm happy. So I've learned that happiness is not getting what you want; it's wanting what you have
Mm,
and grateful for it.
hmm.
Whatever you have, there are people in other parts of the world that would trade their life with you and trade your problems with their problems in a second.
Yeah, for sure. And I think about that a lot. Like one thing that is definitely great in your book, I like to keep going back to your book because it's just so great how like 2 hours, it's chock full of little over 2.5 hours of great stuff. So
Thank
you
you.
said 10, just write down 10 things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And I know I can, like, I'm pretty good judge of my own like actions and character of the day. So I know if I didn't start my day, like I know for myself, I have to start my day off with listing what I'm grateful for. Otherwise, like just that negative self-talk, that self-defeating attitude comes into play. And so, and that happened even today. It's like I woke up, I just had to get to so many things. And then I was like, wait a minute, I got to slow it down. Because I'm like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And then all of a sudden I was just like, all right, you know what? Doesn't matter what happens, is what am I grateful for? And one thing, that's always the top of my list is I'm grateful for my daughter. And immediately that just changes everything in my body. And I'm like, you know what? Nothing else is a big deal. Nothing else is a big deal. It's always what you're grateful for. And we don't take time to realize how grateful for anything.
Yeah. How old is your daughter?
She's going to be 6 Saturday.
Oh, what a great age.
I
That's amazing.
know. I know.
What a fun age. Yeah,
I
there's a lot to
know.
be grateful for there.
Oh, yeah. It totally does not help that I just went out and saw, what's that? The Sound of Freedom.
Oh yeah, you're going to be keeping her on a short
Oh,
leash.
like I told her mother, I was like, so I'm going to see Sound of Freedom today. Do not be surprised when as soon as that movie's done, I want to FaceTime her, like how she's
Yeah.
doing. And she's like, it's cool, I get it, you know. But yeah, it's grateful. Being grateful is such a huge thing that a lot of us
Yeah.
just aren't aware of.
Yeah. I mean, 70% of the world doesn't even have indoor plumbing. So I am grateful for the simplest things like indoor plumbing, home appliances. For so long I went to a laundromat and I didn't even have a washer dryer. So I'm so grateful for a washer dryer. I'm grateful for Wi-Fi signal so we can have awesome conversations on your amazing podcast. Like there's so many things that we can be grateful for that we don't even think about. We just take them for granted and we just think they're just part of life. They're part of our life, but not everybody has computers and cell phones and appliances and all the stuff that we take for granted.
Right, right. So what does a typical day look like for you? You wake up and
Yeah.
it's number one, I gotta wake up.
Yeah, I wake up. Right when I wake up, I put my earpods on. I like listening to a positive YouTube video. I'm a
Mm,
huge fan of Abraham Hicks because they have 15-minute videos that I can just listen to. So before my thoughts get a hold of me and they go into fear, I like to control my vibration right when I wake up,
mm,
throw in a positive YouTube video. Then I drink lemon water, which, detoxes your body because your body collects toxins at night. And then the lemon water kind of purges your liver and everything. So I drink the lemon water. I am obsessed with liquid collagen. You'll get a link in my bio to get it. It's like the fountain of youth. So I have a little tablespoon of this liquid collagen that helps me look younger and feel stronger in my body. Then I will make tea or coffee. Right now I'm in a tea phase. Sometimes I'm in a coffee phase, but there's definitely caffeine involved. So I make my caffeinated beverage, and then I have a little corner of my couch where I have my spiritual books, where I have my abundance journal, and I'll just write in my journal. I will write in a daily planner, like what I want to do today. Then I read, I have a couple of spiritual books that I read from, pray. And then if I have time, I don't do it every time in the morning. Sometimes I run late. I have a guided meditation that I like from the Insight Timer app. And then I will go to the gym and go work out most days, 5 days a week. I come back from the gym and I shower, get ready. If I have time, I make a healthy protein smoothie. Sometimes I don't have time. And then I have another kind of breakfast. And then I just have a bunch of calls. I coach women one-on-one. I do group coaching. I host the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant podcast. I've been a guest on over 100 podcasts. So I will go on a bunch of Zooms and then make a healthy dinner with my husband and just kick back, watch some TV. And I don't really watch things that are negative
Mm,
because I don't want them programming my subconscious. What
mhm.
you watch right before you go to bed will affect how you sleep. So I try to watch something that has, some redeeming quality. I do, like some series that are pretty dramatic and negative. Like I loved Ozark, I love Succession. Um, those are a couple, but Pretty Little Liars. Um, and yeah, then I just do it again. So, and then at night, right before I go to bed, as I'm getting ready for bed, I will listen to something positive again, YouTube, Audible, and then I write 3 things that I'm grateful for right before I go to bed that happened that day. And that is a
Oh,
typical day in my life. Now that's all going to be changing because a couple days ago we found our new puppy. Her name is Indigo, and
ooh,
she's 3 months old. So that's all going to be my whole routine that I just described is going to be turned on its side because I'm
mhm.
going to be waking up earlier, walking a puppy, taking the puppy out every couple hours until she gets potty trained. And we had a dog that died about 10 months ago. And every day at lunch, we like taking the dog on an outing, going somewhere to lunch. Like I live in LA, so it's really nice. Most of the year, we go sit somewhere outside and then we walk the dog around that neighborhood. So that's going to be my new routine. We pick the dog up. Her name is Indigo in 3 weeks. So ask me then
Nice.
what my routine is because it's going to be totally different.
Beautiful. What's what is it LA like? I mean, I haven't been there out there since 2009, 10. So it's been some years. What's it like now? Still,
Well, go ahead.
is it still like, besides it being sunny, is it as doom and gloom as people like to say, or is it all right?
LA got a big ass whooping from COVID,
Mm,
and we had really strong restrictions and limitations, and the homeless population quadrupled. It's really out of control. There used to be 10 cities downtown and there was a Skid Row. Now there's 10 cities even in West LA near the beach. So that part of it is very sad to see all the different tent cities and homeless people. But I will say that in the last few months, LA has picked back up. All the restaurants are open, gyms are open, people are moving here. They're building a new modern apartment complex, it seems like, on every single corner. So I feel like there was a huge exodus. Like everybody left LA and they drove up the real estate prices in Austin, Texas, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and in South Florida. And you
mm.
couldn't even get a U-Haul in LA because they were all like in different parts of the country because so many people left LA during the pandemic. But now there's a huge influx of people moving in. So I feel like it's definitely picked back up. And now you can bring dogs everywhere. You used to only be able to bring dogs You couldn't bring dogs to the beach. You couldn't bring dogs here. You couldn't bring dogs there. Now you can bring dogs to the grocery store, the beach, every single restaurant, like because everybody got a dog during the pandemic. So it's become really a dog culture, which
Really?
makes me so happy.
No kidding. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was great because I moved here from Florida. Like, what do you mean you can't have a dog on the beach? It's outside. So now that you can have dogs on the beach again, I'm so excited.
yeah, for sure. Florida is such a different place.
Very different.
I was born in Florida, so my father lives out there, so I know just what you mean by like, what do you mean you can't you can't have a dog, or you can't go anywhere with a dog? What do you mean? Because it's so like relaxed in Florida.
Yeah.
So here's a big question that hopefully you can bring light to this answer. Is most people are looking for a mentor, but I mean, in this day and age, everybody's a mentor.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's got a credential of, why what are some of the biggest things that you should be looking for in a mentor to sort of vet them all out?
Yeah. One of the biggest things is to find someone who walks the talk. Like you wouldn't hire a personal trainer. I know you're a trainer. You wouldn't hire a personal trainer that was overweight and chain smoked and ate candy bars all day. And you wouldn't want to hire someone that's going to help you with your finances that, is behind on their bills. You wouldn't want to hire a relationship coach who hasn't had a good relationship in 20 years. So when you're looking for a coach, it's really important that you do your diligence and you make sure that they have the results that you want. And the saying is find somebody who has what you want. And if you do what they did, you can get what they got. So I think that's really important. And then the other thing is how accessible is this person? Like, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on a video course with a coach or a mentor that I don't even get to meet or interact with. I mean, you can get
Mm,
videos about anything on YouTube right now. So I wouldn't spend a lot of money on a video course. I would look for a mentor or a coach that I can actually interact with that is going to call me on my shit because that's the only way to grow. If somebody just, co-signs everything you say and, oh, you're doing great, you're perfect. Well, I don't need that because I can already coach myself to get where I am. I want someone who calls me into the next level of my greatness. And I think that a great coach or mentor gives tough love sometimes. Sometimes they encourage you, sometimes they give you tough love. And those are some things to look for in a coach or a mentor.
mm, that's cool. Because I mean, I know there's tons of them now, and I know like one of the biggest things, especially for being a male, is all one of the coolest things that people like to replicate is always trying to tell people stop being a pussy, stop being a pussy.
Yeah.
It's like what is that accomplishing? Like there's tough love, but when you just if that's your only message, what does that mean? Like because there's like I said, everybody wants to go from point A to point B, but there's certain steps, and if you're just going to tell them, oh well, you're not there because you got to stop being a pussy, what does that mean? What am I going to get from
Yeah. I mean, I would say go deeper. Like what is stopping you from taking the next step? Like what are you afraid of? What is your limiting belief around this? And those are deeper questions than what's sorry, I just got a call. Those are deeper questions than stop being a pussy.
yeah? Like it's so it's everywhere. There's like I
Yeah.
just don't get it. I really don't. Like I mean, there's a time and a place for sure, but when everybody just keeps saying that, it's like okay, so then what am I gonna do? I guess I'll
Right.
just stop being a pussy. I don't know.
What do I do next?
Yeah.
So a good coach, gives you guided action. I think of a good coach as someone who gives you a map. They have already gotten from point A to point B, and then they come back and they're like, okay, this is the shortcut. This is where you drive. This is where you don't drive. This is how you get there. and they basically are just giving you the roadmap to your goal or dream.
Mhm. Nice. Alright. So where do you see the whole online coaching movement going?
Um, well, I think it's going in person. I mean, I love online coaching because I've had clients from literally all over the world that I never could have coached in person.
Mm,
But I think that people are craving not necessarily in person, one-on-one. I think online coaching one-on-one is never going anywhere again because
right.
people love being coached in the comfort of their home. But I think that people want more events. Events are so much fun, and you can get so much transformation and network and meet so many great people. And I
Mm,
think that in-person events are going to be just growing and exploding in the next few years. And also, like, it's kind of like travel. I don't know if you've traveled lately, but every single plane is like oversold. And I actually made $2,500 this summer just giving people my seats on oversold
what?
planes. So talk about manifestation. Like, I keep getting paid to give up my seat, and I'm like, all right. So I feel like people are craving travel. It's called revenge travel because we couldn't travel for 3 years. And I feel like it's the same thing with in-person events. People haven't been able to go to in-person events for 3 years. And now that in-person events are back open, people are like, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. So I would say in-person events are going to be where it's at in the coaching world.
Oh, okay. Are you familiar with the term success zombie?
No, what is that?
Like somebody that's always going to all these events, somebody that's always reading all these books and seminars, but they just don't ever do anything.
Yeah. I've never heard success zombie, but what I call that is analysis paralysis
Mhm.
because so many people are like, I'm just going to be a student of success and I'm going to study everything on how to launch a business and how to sell and online marketing and just study. But eventually you have to take action. And if I ask people, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Because really, there is no failure. You either win or you learn. And there's certain things you can go to every seminar and be a success zombie and study every book on success and go to every, podcast or whatever. But there's certain things that you can only learn through experience. And that's experience is the best teacher. So I would encourage people that are in that phase of just wanting to study and learn that's a great thing, but also taking action is going to teach you way more than any seminar, book, or workshop ever could.
Mm, yeah, that's huge because I don't think a lot of people realize like just the action, just doing the thing itself. Like it's easier said, but uh, let me rephrase this with like a better question is how uncomfortable did you have to get in your actions to get to where you are?
I had to get so uncomfortable. I remember when I was in my first entrepreneurial opportunity in my 20s. I had to pawn all my mother's jewelry that she gave me. Luckily, don't tell her. Luckily, she doesn't listen to podcasts, so she doesn't know that I it. I like shared apartments with like 5 or 10 people where we were sleeping sometimes on air mattresses and futons. I was not eating very healthy. I was eating like rice cakes and peanut butter,
Mm,
or I was eating you can get a pint of Chinese hot and sour soup for like $5.
mhm,
That was totally uncomfortable. And I was facing a lot of rejection,
mm.
judgment, abandonment, which I still, face every day in my businesses. So I still
But
get ghosted and people still don't like return my calls or texts. And that's
really?
just, yeah, that's just part of it. That's part of being a business person. And, I'm not in the results business. I'm in the action business. So
Ooh,
all I
I
can do
like
is take
that.
action and then stay detached from the results. So I feel like I'm constantly out of my comfort zone every single day.
Yeah, I like that. That kind of, you know, leads into where I was going with that. Because I remember when we had that pre-interview call for this, you're like, don't be nervous. It's all right. Like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But like to where you are to where I am, it's like it's a big deal. And so I remember like even today, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I got I got a podcast today with somebody that's a pretty big deal. And like my mind's like trying to talk me out of it. Like I'm so uncomfortable. Like, but I gotta do it. Like there's just how you get there. And I feel like that's what stops or what keeps people being a success zombie is you got to keep doing these like things that yes they're uncomfortable but you have to just do them. Like there's no easy way out of it.
Yeah, well, that conversation was hilarious to me because you're the first person who's ever treated me like I'm famous. And I'm like, wow, maybe something is happening. Because so many times I feel like as a content creator, I'm just looking at my cell phone or my computer and I don't know what's landing and what's, people are listening to. And when you were so nervous, I was like, oh my God, maybe I have like done something that, he's treating me like I'm famous. It was pretty hilarious to me. And that's why I was like, dude, like I'm like such a dork. Like there's no reason to be nervous around me at all. Um, so yeah, getting out of your comfort zone is so important. And I've been, I've asked people to be on my podcast too that I was so nervous to ask. And I'm just honest with them. I'm like, oh my God, I really admire your work. And I'm so nervous to ask you to be on my podcast right now. And people love that because people want vulnerability. Nobody falls in love with someone who everything is perfect all of the time. That's
Right.
really boring. And
Right.
if you're real and you're vulnerable and you're nervous and you're authentic, then, people are really going to feel connected to you.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's I remember I was because I got a buddy in this too who he's trying to get to the same place. And I was calling him, I was like, dude, you're not gonna believe this. Like I got somebody on the podcast. It's a pretty big deal. I'm like, I felt like so out of my comfort zone. I just felt like just it's hard to describe, but I'm glad you get it. Like you understand. It's like, going from interviewing a certain, range of people to jumping into a whole nother ball game. It's like getting called up to the major leagues from the minors and you're like, it's your first at bat. You're like, that oh shit feeling. You're like, okay. And then, once you realize you just go through it, it's not a big deal, like you said, but you just got to do it
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
for sure.
And
That's,
that's hilarious. I mean, so I'll take it, but it's very sweet that you think I'm major league.
well, you're the one that said, what did you say? You're the number one, life coach.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a big deal. Like that's not,
That is. Yes, I get to own it. So thank you for all your kind words.
you are welcome. So what's next? You just wrote 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you can think of that you're gonna maybe release another book or any ideas on something like that matter?
Yeah, I'm in the process of writing a memoir and I've written a
Mhm.
few chapters. And then after that, I want to write a book on the 7 steps to manifesting your soulmate in midlife. And I already
Mm.
have that outline written out because I have a course called How to Manifest Your Soulmate. So yeah, those would be my next 2 books.
No, just give people like a small taste. How does someone do that? Because I know for myself, like I'm not the greatest at my track record has shown, as such that I'm not the greatest at getting my soulmate.
Yeah, well, there are certain steps. The first one is to process and release your past because I was just doing the same pattern over and over and over again and picking the same type of partner. So when you know what your pattern is, then it's a lot easier not to keep repeating it.
Mm,
Another thing is to decide if you want to be the feminine or the masculine energy. Feminine energy is
mm,
receptive, available, and respecting, and in the receiver mode. And then the masculine is more active. Masculine energy wants to compete, conquer, control, and is more the pursuer. So that's a big thing. Deciding where you want to meet your soulmate. I like to call it fish. What ponds do you want to go into? Do you want to fish online? Do you want to fish in person? Where you want to fish? How to date? I believe that people should date 3 people at a time. I'm not talking about being intimate, but just socializing with at least 3 people, how to negotiate exclusivity. I believe that people should have exclusivity before they are in an intimate relationship. And then just how to stay in that relationship for at least a year before you make a decision. A lot of people have shiny object syndrome. They want the BBD, the bigger, better deal. It's so easy to meet people online now with all the dating apps and think, oh, well, I need to have this one. But I encourage my clients to actually give a year to the person they're dating and give that person a chance, because everybody's weird. Everybody has character defects, and it's just deciding if that person is right for you.
mm. Now, do you feel like it's not a lost cause?
Of course
Because
not. It's not, I feel like there's a lid for every pot, and it only takes one basketball to get through the hoop, as my mom used to say. And it's never a lost cause, but you do have to do these steps, like really look at yourself and your patterns and be willing to try something different. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and picking the same type of person,
mm,
you're going to have the same results over and over and over again. So it does take some reflection and working with a coach or a mentor to help you realize like what your patterns are.
no kidding. So say if what's really good. So if I'm trying to ask this in a way that would make sense, like clear and logical sense. Hmm. So one thing is most people don't want a dishonest person, like a dishonest partner.
Right.
W- Would you like tell them or point out to them all the ways that they are dishonest in themselves?
Would I point that out?
Yeah, because you attract what you
Are you
project.
asking for a friend? Are you already in a relationship with this person?
Me? No, no.
Okay. I wouldn't start a relationship with someone who is dishonest.
No.
With,
Okay, so what I mean is, let's take me for example.
yeah.
I keep dating people that are dishonest. Okay, and I came to you and I was like, can you help me out? Because I want to find the one, but I keep attracting all these people that are just dishonest. Would you
Okay.
then like sit me down and be like, all right, listen, going through all this stuff that we're going through, I can clearly see that you're dishonest in this way. Is that how you help people out? Like, I'm just trying to get a feel for.
I mean, I take them through these 7 steps, but if you were my coaching client and said why do I keep picking people who are dishonest? I would say because you're dishonest with yourself. So where do you justify, rationalize, and explain things to yourself that are dishonest? Where do you say, oh, I'm gonna call this person back, or I'm gonna show up here, and then you don't show up? So
Hmm.
you attract who you are, not who you want. So if you attract somebody who's dishonest, that means you're being dishonest with yourself. If you attract somebody who's unkind to you, like I used to, I was talking to myself in an unkind way. So you attract someone who mirrors your own inner life.
Hmm. Hmm. That's huge.
Yeah,
That's
that's a big
huge.
takeaway.
That is, and still, you can explain that to somebody, and I don't like. Maybe it's just they got to hear it from somebody else. Because I was explaining that to one of my friends before, He's like, I don't know why I keep, you know, attracting these people that, you know, are blowing me off and lying and all. And I was like, well, dude, it's very obvious. Like for me to sit here and tell you that because you don't want to attract that type of person, but yet every time you say you're going to go on this diet or you're going to go exercise, you don't do it. So you're being dishonest with yourself.
Yeah,
And they're like, well, what does that have to do with dating people? And as I try to explain it to them, like everything, it's not about because you didn't blow somebody else off, but you're blowing yourself off.
exactly.
And that's you're just gonna get what you keep doing. I still didn't get it. So I don't know. Maybe you had a better way of explaining it.
Yeah, have them listen to this show, but I would say that I just explained it. If also if somebody keeps blowing them off and that basically that means they're unavailable for a relationship. It's like I used to pick people that were unavailable for a relationship because I was emotionally unavailable to myself. I was constantly just pushing myself, being a perfectionist, driving myself to all these big goals and dreams, but I didn't show myself any compassion or any kindness. So I was choosing people that were emotionally unavailable because I was emotionally unavailable. And I said I wanted a committed relationship, but I really didn't. I was scared of getting hurt. So I would, pick people that had like a huge glaring character flaw. So I would have an easy way out and be like, well,
Ooh,
this person's totally inappropriate because of this. So I would pick people that I knew that I could, easily break up with because I was emotionally unavailable too. So if he keeps getting blown off, there's part of him that doesn't want to be in a relationship. Maybe he's scared of getting hurt like I was.
perhaps, perhaps. I know you got to go here soon, so I want to ask you just one last question on this, just so people can really have an idea of, you know, the law of attraction. Everything that you talk about is
Mhm.
if you're ungrateful, you know, if you don't take the time out to be grateful for things, you're going to attract people that are ungrateful into your life.
Mhm.
So, because that's pretty big. Like everybody always complains that their partner's not grateful enough and all, but it's always, well, are you?
Exactly. So what's the question?
Just how can people, you know, I guess there is no question. I guess I could just just answered it myself. But
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, if you want, I can just expand on it. But yeah, if you're in a partnership with somebody who's constantly ungrateful for what you're doing, it could be that you're ungrateful or that you pick someone that you have to prove yourself to, kind of like a disapproving parent. Like if you had a
Hmm.
disapproving parent, no matter what you did, it wasn't enough. You never got the attaboy or the attagirl. Then you pick a partner that no matter what you do for them, it's never enough. And I used to think that if I like, won the Olympics or wrap myself into a pretzel, then I would get their approval. But if somebody is unhappy with themselves, there's nothing that I can do to make them happy. And it was just a waste of time. So I started to look for people that were already happy, and it wasn't my job to make them happy. And then I started to realize that it doesn't matter what other people think about me. I was like a validation addict, an approval addict, people pleaser,
Hmm.
and I just had to learn that I only had to please myself. I was powerless over what other people thought of me.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff for sure. All right. Well, I know you got to go. Your time is very precious. Thank you
Thanks.
so much for coming on. Where can people find you at?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Rebecca E. Whitman. You can find me on Facebook under Rebecca Whitman, Threads, the new app at Rebecca E. Whitman, Clubhouse at Rebecca E. Whitman. And I'm going to be gifting your listeners with an abundance journal. so they can start their morning off and have the best day possible. And that is going to be in my Linktree link, which I'm going to give Brett. And you can also go to my website, RebeccaElizabethWhitman.com. And for the women out there that are listening, I'm offering a free coaching call every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, where I offer coaching, accountability, and support. It's totally for free. It's just my way of giving back. So all of that will be on my Linktree link that Brett will share in the show notes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. Guys, definitely reach out. She's the major leagues here. So thanks you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Brett. It was a great interview and such an honor to be on the show. Thank you.
For sure. Likewise.